y'all, and welcome back to the Bible study with a Jewish understanding. I'm Beth Shulam, and thanks for tuning in again. As always, I appreciate your time. Today, I'm diving into Mark, the Gospel of Mark. I'm going to be reading from chapter 12, verses 38 to 44. And here, Yeshua will teach us about how the heart of true faith and generosity. And he contrasts this with the outward appearance of religious leaders and a poor widow. So let's explore this passage and see how we can apply this to us right now. And Yeshua begins with a warning. So here we go. Mark 12, 38 to 44. Again, I read from the Jewish and Annotated New Testament, New Revised Standard Version. That's the one I like. And as he taught, he said, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses, and for the sake of appearances say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." Then he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on." Yeshua begins, he warns us against these teachers of the law, the scribes, who outwardly appear righteous but have hearts that are far away. They're looking out for honor and praise and respect from others, but Yeshua says they exploit the vulnerable, like widows, for their own purposes, for their own gain. And he says, and notice he says, devour the widows' houses. In this time, widows were some of the most vulnerable members of society, and these religious leaders, rather than protecting these vulnerable women, were taking advantage of them and their weakness. He also says these leaders make flowery, long prayers, but he says their actions betray their intentions. Yeshua calls this hypocrisy and warns that they will face a severe punishment. But then he moves on. He literally sits down and shifts his focus from watching these leaders to watching the people coming through the treasury and putting their money in the box. The rich, as expected, or I wouldn't even say the rich here, I'd say the people with the ability gave large amounts of money. But then this poor widow comes forward and she has 2 copper coins. Now I have one of these copper coins and I wish I'd brought it up here. They're about this big. They're teeny. And they're worth almost nothing in terms of the monetary value. In this English version, it says worth a penny. But to Yeshua, it was an invaluable sacrifice. The rich, he says, gives out of their abundance. But the widow gave everything she had, even though it looks like a teeny, teeny, tiny amount to everyone around her that could have seen her. The difference between her and the people that were giving out of their abundance was that she gives with a heart of trust and devotion to God. Now, let me read again what Yeshua responded, how he responded to this woman. He called all the disciples over because he wanted them to see what he was seeing. He said, truly I tell you, and when Yeshua says truly I tell you, he is going to reveal something extremely important. This poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. I have experienced this one time when we were in Brazil a few years ago. Their congregation puts their contributions in an envelope and then sticks it in a box. But the gentleman handed us several of these envelopes that people were contributing to Netivyah in our ministry. And when I opened one of the envelopes, and I only opened it when I got home, there was a gold wedding ring in that envelope. I've never felt so convicted. Someone put what I believe was all they had into the envelope to give to us. My feelings of responsibility for using that gift properly are tremendous because someone gave all they had to us for the work of God. And I think that that is the feeling that Yeshua is trying to convey to these disciples here. He is commending that woman for her sacrificial giving. He says she's given more than all these rich people combined. She gave everything she had. In the world's eyes, it seemed insignificant what she gave. But in the eyes of God, it was a priceless gift. And I feel that way about that wedding ring that we were given. You can't put a price on it. True generosity isn't about the size of the gift, but the heart and the intention behind the giver. This widow's offering was a true act of faith, a complete surrender of her materialistic needs. She gave it to God, showing that her trust wasn't in that money, but that God and His providence, that He would provide for her. So what do I want everyone to take out of this lesson today? True faith, again, is humble. I spoke about that last week. A leader should be humble. Your character should have humility. The teachers of the law, these scribes that were being observed here, were focused on external appearances, what everybody could see them do, wanting the honor and the recognition of special spots in the synagogue. But the widow was focused on giving everything she had for the glory of God without recognition. Yeshua calls us to live humbly and don't seek praise from others. Live out our faith sincerely and with integrity. And I think this means to serve other people, love God with all our hearts, and do what's right, even when we don't think people are watching. And 2, generosity comes from the heart inside. This widow didn't give because she was expected to, or because she had something to gain from it like the scribes did. She gave because she loved God and she trusted Him. Generosity really isn't tied to wealth. And I think that's what Yeshua is really trying to convey here. Generosity is also giving our time and our energy, maybe our love to someone else, or even just our prayers. But all of that done out of sincerity. Offering whatever we have at the moment, no matter how small, and trusting God to use it for His purposes. And I think this could be financial support. And whether it is financial support or a kind word or helping someone in need, true generosity flows from a heart that has surrendered to God. Lastly, true faith involves trusting God in all circumstances. The widow's offering was most likely the most difficult thing in her life at the moment. She gave everything she had, her last 2 coins, because she trusted that God would provide for her. Perhaps she didn't know where that next meal was coming from. It does not tell us in the scripture. But I believe she felt deep in her heart that the Lord would take care of her. Trusting God means we rely on Him even when the future is uncertain. It's easy to trust God when things go well. But true faith is displayed when we trust Him in our weaknesses and struggles with life. When we give everything we have, whether it's resources, time, or just trusting in Him, we show our faith. God, apparently, according to Yeshua, is more concerned with the condition of our heart and our intent than with the outward appearances that we portray. True faith is humble and generous and trusting. How much of ourselves are we willing to surrender to God? So I encourage you and myself today, whether you're rich or poor, whether you have a lot or just a little, give all that you have to God with a pure and clear intent. Trust that He will provide for you and know that He sees the intentions of your heart. Your faith, no matter how small it might seem, is precious in His eyes. So thanks for taking the time to listen to my talk today. If it's encouraged you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. I'd like to hear your thoughts. What stands out to you about Yeshua's observance of these leaders of the community versus this widow? So leave me a comment. Let's talk about it. And until next time, let's grow in our faith and let's learn to be more humble and certainly learn to be more generous. Shalom, y'all, and thanks. Bye.
קומי אורי, כי בא אורך, וכבוד אדוני עלייך זרח. קומי אורי, כי בא אורך, וכבוד אדוני עלייך זרח.